Tom Brokaw is 86 now. If you grew up watching the nightly news, his name hits a familiar nerve. He was that steady voice on NBC News, reliable, measured, never rattled. Decades of everything, from the chaos of wars and nail-biter elections to the unmistakable gut punch of September 11th. Brokaw was there through it all, somehow always choosing just the right word, never wasting a syllable. You could count on him, and, honestly, that's pretty rare. Today, Brokaw finally broke a long silence, but he didn't rush to a podium or polish up a statement for the press. None of that. He invited just 8 people, old friends, former colleagues, into his New York apartment. No cameras, no microphones, no publicist lurking on the edge, just a circle of chairs and some coffee between people who knew him well. Afterwards, one of those 8 picked up the phone, called a journalist. "Do you want to know what Tom said?" And that's how this came to light. The story that came out isn't really about a headline-making crime, missing persons, or ransom negotiations, though those things swirl around the edges. At its core, it's about family, about a daughter and a mother, and the tangled, sometimes unspeakable power of love, the kind that keeps you glued together while it tears you apart. Let's get to Brokaw's own words. No warm-ups, no easing in. He just started. "I've known Savannah since she was the new kid on the 4th floor at 30 Rock. She was 30, maybe 31. Ambitious, sharp, almost painfully polite. But it was something beyond that. I spotted it right away because I'd seen it before in people who grew up under a certain kind of parent." Then he paused. What came next was so clear. She carried her mother around with her like a second heartbeat. Not in that soft, sentimental way. No endless Sunday calls. More like her mother was still in the control booth, still running her show from the shadows. That image stuck. Not a mother quietly cheering from the sidelines, but one pulling the levers, deciding what's on air, what gets cut. The performance measured against expectations that never really go away. Brokaw kept going. Nancy Guthrie didn't raise 3 kids alone after her husband died by being gentle. She was unbreakable, and she expected nothing less from her kids. It wasn't cruelty. She just knew the world eats up anything soft, so she made sure her children never let down their guard. He shared this one specific moment. Savannah, when offered the Today Show co-anchor spot, the kind of career-defining promotion most people only fantasize about, didn't call her agent, didn't call her husband, called Nancy, her mom. And what did Nancy say? Not congratulations, not pride. That's fine, but don't let it go to your head, and don't let them see you sweat. You're there to work, not to be liked. Brokaw looked at the faces around him and said, "Savannah told me that story not out of resentment, but pride. She was proud her mother kept her grounded, right at the biggest moment of her life." Really, take that in. Your daughter hits her career high, and your first move is to keep her down to earth, to remind her not to slip for even a second. Most people would crumble under that weight, but Savannah wore it like proof her mother loved her. Maybe the only way her mother knew how to show it. Approval comes from discipline, not emotion. Love gets earned with performance, not neediness. That's how Brokaw explained it, how the Guthrie family always worked. That was their language, the ground they stood on for all those years. With Nancy suddenly missing and all eyes glued to the story, Brokaw's advice? Watch Savannah. Listen to her words, how she frames every sentence. She starts with gratitude for the public. She highlights her mother's character. She acknowledges the ransom. Only at the very end, the big, direct ask for help. That's not only instinct, Brokaw said. That's been drilled into her. That's Nancy's choreography. He watched her declaration, "We will pay," and felt it in his gut. Not because it was wrong, but because of the precision in how she said it. She sounded like she was reading the surrender terms in a peace treaty. Calm, clear, not an ounce of visible pain. Just resolve, poise, grit. Then Brokaw hit a nerve, painting a picture you can't shake. Most daughters, if they had to offer a king's ransom to get their mother back, wouldn't sound like that. She sounded like a soldier reporting to command. He pushed further. Look at her eyes in those clips. She's still reporting to command, even now when command is missing. When command, her mother, is in danger. When command might be dying without her medicine. But still, She follows orders. The chain of command is still unbroken in her own mind. Someone asked, the question that everyone wanted to know but was almost afraid to say out loud, could Savannah keep carrying all this if it dragged on? Another week, a month? Brokaw didn't hesitate. I don't know. She's already running on fumes, you can see it. The light in her eyes is dimming, but she won't let it die, not yet. For her, letting that flame go out would mean admitting she can't fix this. And if she can't fix it, she'll feel like she failed her mother, which is the only outcome she's been fighting her whole life to avoid. There it is, being the soldier, holding steady. Sometimes it's the only way you can show love even when it might break you. So Tom brought up another story. It was short, yeah, but it hits like a punch to the gut. About a decade back, Savannah was having a rough time in her personal life. She never really spelled it out for Tom, kept the details tight. But one day she showed up early, sat beside him in the makeup room, almost whispering, I called Mom last night. I told her I was struggling. Nancy's answer? You've handled worse. Handle this. Tom glanced around the room, 8 people listening. He said, she smiled when she told me. That smile, small and so tired. Then she went straight on air and interviewed a grieving parent, like nothing happened. It's wild to think about that moment. Savannah's fighting through something tough, reaches out to her mom for comfort, and what she gets isn't the soft reassurance, the outpouring most people expect. Just handle it. And the thing is, she takes that as comfort, as advice, as love. That's the only kind of love she's ever known. Maybe the only kind she knows how to accept. Tom put it bluntly. She's the product of a parenting style that says love has to be earned by being unbreakable. Right now, she's trying to stay invincible for the person who taught her that was the price. This is where I want to stop for a second, because it feels so familiar, doesn't it? Maybe you didn't have a Nancy Guthrie for a mom, but plenty of us grew up learning that love came with strings attached. Approval had to be earned. Weakness? Showing it was risky. If you needed too much or felt too much, if you cracked open and didn't hide it, maybe you'd lose the thing you feared losing most. So we learned to fake strength. We waited until we were alone to cry. We smiled through things that tore us up inside, because that's what was expected. That's what made people proud of us. That's what got us into the right circles, kept us belonging. Look at Savannah Guthrie. The poised videos, the crisp delivery, her voice steady as a soldier promising, we will pay. It's not some mysterious act. It's who she is, a daughter, doing what she's been trained since she was little, exactly who her mother shaped her to be. And honestly, that's probably the saddest line out of all of this. Tom then pivoted, raising something that sent shivers through the room. He asked everyone to think back through the line of public statements since Nancy vanished. House found empty February 1st. Sheriff calls it an abduction. National headlines everywhere. From Savannah, pure silence. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, nothing. 3 days before her first video shows up, and when it did, it was so polished, rehearsed, carefully structured, late Wednesday night. Tom pointed this out, saying, that delay? It's not random. That delay is Nancy. Savannah didn't speak until she could speak perfectly, until she could frame her mother as strong and radiant, until she could thank people first. He added, most daughters in crisis would have jumped on social media, sobbing at midnight, begging, please bring my mom back. Savannah waited until everything was composed, until she could deliver a performance that would make her mom proud. Honestly, I kept thinking, is that strength? Or is it fear? Fear of messing up? Fear of not being good enough? Fear that her mom would be disappointed if she got it wrong? Maybe it's both. Maybe that's what makes it all so hard to watch. Then, Tom told another story. 15 years ago, Savannah stumbled professionally. A piece she worked on went sideways. Her name got dragged. The network was stung. 2 weeks, she showed up on camera every day, composed, defending, explaining, never visibly shaken. When the worst was finally over, she wandered into Tom's office one evening, just let a few tears fall. Only a few, then wiped her eyes. I called Mom, told her what happened. She said, you made a mistake. You fix mistakes. You don't wallow. Tom's voice dropped, caught. She wasn't looking for comfort. She was reporting progress, showing me, showing herself, she was still following the code. And she went right back on air, like nothing had happened. Someone else finally asked what everyone was thinking, just came out with it. Do you think she's scared that if she really lets go, if she breaks down, Nancy would somehow know? Would be disappointed? Tom didn't hesitate. She's terrified. Part of her still believes Nancy is watching. Not in some supernatural way, though faith runs deep in their family. More like a teacher watching their student take a final exam. Even if Nancy's bound somewhere, suffering, barely conscious without her meds, Savannah believes there's still a grade being given. Did you hold it together? Did you represent us well? Did you stay strong when everything fell apart? He went quiet. I've anchored through more crises than I can count. I've watched families collapse on camera. I've watched them scream, sob, cling to each other. That's the real thing. That's normal. Savannah hasn't done any of it. Not once. That control? It isn't strength. It's survival training from childhood. And then someone asked the question nobody really wanted to say out loud. What happens if Nancy doesn't come home? Tom fell silent, just for a moment, but it felt like the whole world paused with him. I watched as he gathered his words, not in a hurry, but heavy with something that mattered. He finally spoke. If Nancy doesn't come home, he said, quiet and clear, Savannah won't fall apart the way we see people do on TV. She won't unravel for the cameras. She'll do what she always does, thank everyone who tried to help, speak at the memorial without a tremor in her voice, hold her kids close, and then she'll show up at work like nothing cracked inside her. He let that idea hang there, and I think we all felt it settle in. He went on, but this time his voice caught a little. And even when the public chaos passes, she won't let herself mourn like everyone else. Inside, she'll carry the verdict she's handed herself, that she just couldn't do enough, that she failed her final test as a daughter. That story, her private heartbreak, will weigh more than all the visible grief any of us will ever see. Honestly, I had to stop for a breath myself after that. Tom wasn't just talking about Savannah on the news. He was talking about something else, something quieter we rarely see. We've all watched Savannah Guthrie for years, maybe even feel like we know her. She interviews world leaders without flinching, she breaks enormous stories, and every now and then she lets us see a hint of her own heart. We've seen her share stories of loss, motherhood, and life, all with that unwavering presence. People say she's composed, graceful, maybe even unbreakable. She's strong, that's what we see. And yet, here's Tom Brokaw, sitting across from her, speaking as someone who's watched up close as Savannah built that strength. He remembers her as the kid at 30 Rock, holding herself together through things that would send most people into hiding. Tom, now 86, has been in enough rooms to know strength isn't free. Strength comes at a cost. It's built on expectations. Sometimes love, sometimes a test you never chose but can't walk away from. And he sees it. Savannah is still taking that test, still reaching for a perfect score, even when the subject is her own heartbreak. It got quiet as Tom ended the afternoon with something soft, something almost like a prayer. It wasn't an anchor's sign-off, not a quote to lead the nightly news, just a hope, spoken so low I'm not sure everyone in the room caught it. I hope when Nancy is safe again, she finally gives her daughter the one thing she's never known how to ask for. Permission to be human. That's what stuck with me. Permission. Not permission to be weak, not some blanket pass to give up, just a simple, aching permission to be a person, to be messy and scared and tired and full of doubt, to be someone whose grief isn't a performance, whose first identity is not hero or product or soldier for someone else's dreams, but just a daughter, not sure, not polished, someone who desperately misses her mom. Tom asked all of us there not to rush this onto Twitter or slap his name on a trending topic. Slow down, he said. Give the investigation some air. Let the story breathe. When the dust settles, he hopes, maybe even needs, someone to tell the real story. Not the one with police lines and helicopters, but the one about a daughter who spent 46 years trying to be worthy of the woman who raised her. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that since. How many of us, quietly, or not so quietly, are living versions of that? How many people in their 40s, 50s, 60s are still chasing a parent's nod, still holding back the messy parts of themselves, still editing, still trying to earn what maybe was always theirs but never felt certain. Maybe that's why we watch Savannah so closely. Maybe she's playing out in real time what a lot of us still struggle with, long after the world expects us to have figured it out. And maybe, just maybe, that tiny moment, Tom turning his years and memories into a single truth, will ripple out past the 8 people in that room, past me, past you reading this now. Maybe that's how the truth sneaks in, finally claimed. So tonight I'll say Nancy's name. I hope with everything in me she gets to walk home. And if she does, picture this. What if the first thing she says is simple and gentle? You did enough. You always did enough. You can rest now. If Tom's right, and my gut says he is, those 5 words might be all Savannah needs. They might be the words she's been hoping for, maybe even without realizing it. I'm curious, did this story hit you differently? Did something shift for you, the way it did for me? For once, this isn't about headlines or crimes or ratings. It's about family, about what we carry, about that untouchable need for someone to finally say, rest, you're enough, you can come home. If you're not already following along, stay with me. This story isn't done, and I want you here for each next word. Be gentle with yourself. I'll talk to you soon.